Welcome to the Excruciating Minutiae Podcast, where we obsess about sports, pop culture, and politics, but mostly sports. Here are your hosts, Randy and Steven.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Excruciating Minutia. I'm Randy, and I'll be joined shortly by Steven. And before we begin, I just want to go ahead and ask everybody to check us out at excruciatingpodcast.com, where you can find a whole lot of links to all the different places you can listen to us on a regular basis, and we ask that you please do so. What we're going to be doing today is our last podcast. We were starting off our 30-year look back at the year 1989 and all that was going on. And anyone who listened to that podcast realized 1989 was a heck of a year. So that's actually going to be a multi-part series. We're going to be releasing those probably once a week. So in the interim, we'll be talking about some other things until we get to part 2 of that, which will be later on this week. Today, we're going to be talking about, problems or relative problems, because the big news of the day, at least today that we're recording, is a baseball-related story. Bryce Harper, the last big remaining free agent available in the marketplace, signed a apparently 13-year, $330 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. $330 million. That's a lot of money. And what's the old adage that, money brings nothing but problems, or something along those lines, which is not something I've ever really believed. But Bryce Harper's not going to really have any problems. We all think we have problems on a regular basis, but in comparison to other people in other parts of the world, we really don't. And there's a term for that, isn't there, Steven?
It is called first world problems. And let me give you a actual definition from Webster's Dictionary. Definition of a first world problem is usually a minor or trivial problem or annoyance experienced by people in relatively affluent or privileged circumstances, especially as contrasted with problems of greater social significance facing people in poor and underdeveloped parts of the world.
That's what I'm familiar with it referring to. And I'm going to admit, I don't think this makes me a bad person. I'm as guilty as anybody else who lives, let's say in the United States, because we're fortunate. We live in a free country and a free society that we have all these advantages and all these wonders and marvels, and we have it really good here. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle, that we forget how bad it can be in other parts of the world. I'm as guilty of that as anybody. And we kind of referenced that when we were talking about the Nike shoes and Zion Williamson's shoe exploding. I had somebody who listened to that podcast who said that they were, laughing at the comment I made, something about firing the 8-year-old in Bangladesh who made that shoe for 10 cents an hour, except that's really a real thing, right? And yet here I am and I was complaining to you just the other day, an example of a first world problem. Passwords on computer sites. I do everything online, don't you? I mean, at this point, you're not a paper and pen and write a check type of guy, are you?
I write one check a month. It's for a place that does not accept online payments. But other than that, I'm an IT guy. I do everything online.
Yeah. And I'm not the most technologically advanced person. I'm not a complete imbecile, but, I'm not to your level of IT awareness, but I do everything online as well. And, I pay my bills, I pay my mortgage, and I just am driven crazy. We just did a podcast on conspiracies. So here's my conspiracy thought with passwords. The people who have these online sites, I think they change them themselves sometimes, because this is what happened to me on Monday night. I have a home mortgage. I have an equity loan that was taken out on there to do some renovations to my house some years back. And you're well aware of the renovations. You stayed at my home during some of those renovations, and they were pretty extensive. We'll just leave it at that. Would you agree on that? And rebuilt, yeah.
It is not ripped apart anymore. It has been rebuilt. Yes.
Yes, thankfully. Because then I guess I would be having something that wasn't a first world problem. It would be closer to a third world problem the way we lived for a little while. But we had this equity loan. So it was originally with Capital One. It was sold to another banking institution of less reputable reputation. And we had to set up a new account. We set up a username. We set up an account password. And I'm not one of those type of people that writes down the password every place, or at least I never used to, because what did they say? You're not supposed to use the same passwords and IDs for everything. They want you to have very random and very different ones for everything. But we both know that's not what most people do, right? That's not how most people handle that.
That is not.
I do have different passwords and usernames, but they tend to be variations of one another, and they're all tend to be very similar. And if I can get away with like the same username, I tend to use that. Well, here I am trying to pay online my equity mortgage payment on Monday, and I'm entering the user ID and my password, and it's not recognized, does not recognize this. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's not the password. So I go, and this is actually a password I had gone ahead and written down in a ledger that I keep of financial transactions. So I type in, I'm like, okay, this is the password. It worked the month before. Ask me if it worked. Ask me if I could get in. No, I can't. So I'm thinking maybe it's the user ID. I can't believe it's not this user ID because there'd be no reason why it wouldn't be. The password's obviously correct. So I go ahead, put the user ID and try a different one, and it's telling me no. So I hit the button. There's always a forgot password, right? Tried the forgot password. I'm like, maybe the password is wrong. Maybe I wrote it down wrong in my ledger. It asked me for this. Again, it's telling me there's no match. I'm like, all right, forgot user ID. I go to do that. To do the user ID, these are the two things you need. You need your loan number. You need your social security number. The loan number, they actually do mail paperwork every month from this company. There's my loan number right on the paperwork, which I enter exactly. My social, would you think I would know my own social security number at this point?
I would hope.
I do. I enter the social. Guess what it tells me? None of that is found in any of their records. Are you kidding me? I end up on the phone with somebody discussing this, and basically I'm told, yeah, your user ID is this. And I'm like, well, no shit. That's exactly what I've been putting in for the last 15 minutes. And the password worked a month ago. I'm 100% convinced because you know what was asked like 3 or 4 times in this conversation? How would you like to have things set up so that everything is auto-drafted for you automatically every month? I was asked that multiple times. You know what my thought process is on that? They changed the password themselves because they want you to auto draft, because they want to get your bank information, because they want to make sure that they have their other little hand in there. I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but honestly, I can't think of any explanation why the username that was exactly what I was putting in, that the guy confirmed for me on the phone, and the password that I used less than 30 days before all of a sudden stopped working magically out of nowhere. And the guy didn't really seem terribly surprised when he got me on the phone. And I'm like trying to explain to him, why can't I log into my account? Oh, but you know what that is? That it really is. That's a first world problem, isn't it? So my rage and my outrage and my irritation over it, because believe me, it was aggravating, it was stressful, it was annoying, and it was a waste of my time. But when you factor them into bigger problems around the world, like I said, someone who lives in Bangladesh and is making, barely any money to work in a Nike plant. Yeah, I guess that kind of pales in comparison. And when you bring something like that up, I feel a little silly, even though I'm still aggravated. I'm confused. I'm torn between this, Stephen. Help me out. What should I feel guilty to be aggravated?
As an IT professional, I deal with people who claim that they've quote unquote lost or forgotten their password, or that they know their password and it's just not working. That's the common statement that these people make. I'm trying to log in. I'm using the same login I've always used and it's not working. And I will tell you that 99.999 times out of 100, the problem is somewhere between the keyboard and the chair.
Now, do you think that was the case in my case? Am I the 0.1%? I know I'm part of that 0.1% in this case, but I will grant you, you're correct. Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment.
I'm sure you're part of the 0.1%. Sure, if you want to believe that. Go right ahead.
He gave me the user ID that I'd been typing in and told me, this is your user ID. And my response was like, literally, no That's what I've been putting in. I know how to type on a keyboard. I'm sober over here. I can see. I'm not typing in the freaking dark. My caps lock isn't on. I'm not an idiot. Well, not all the time. Occasionally I can be an idiot. This isn't one of those times.
Okay, if you say so.
If you say so. So that was kind of annoying, to say the least. I was kind of bent out of shape about it. That's not the only thing we get bent out of shape about. I'll give another good example of a first world problem issue. Do you eat out much? Do you do fast food?
I don't do fast food that often.
All right. So I don't anymore either. And I don't do fast food for two reasons. One, because it's for fast food, you would think that would mean it would be hot and it would be tasty, except most fast food places rarely, it seems like you're getting something that's been under a heat lamp for 20 minutes and tends to be cold. It tends to be dry. It just doesn't tend to be as tasty, certainly as anything you can make at home. And it's gotten expensive, right? I mean, fast food used to be inexpensive, but you could go to Wendy's, let's say, and just get like a single combo and you're spending close to like $9 or whatever by the time you're finished, right? I mean, it's not cheap anymore.
Yeah. I will say this about fast food. The trick to fast food is always order something with one variation off of the way it normally comes. So when I get, like, if I go to McDonald's, for example, the rare cases, if I'm like traveling or something, and I've got to get some food on the road, go to McDonald's and I'll get a quarter pounder with cheese, which comes with onions, and I'll just order it. I'll say no onions. And so they have to make a fresh one because, and I know it's going to take a little bit longer, but at least I know it's going to be fresh and hot.
Do you hope that's what they're doing?
It's hard to get those chopped up onions off of a burger once you already have cheese on it. You know, I can tell immediately if that's what they did. And then at that point, I'm going inside and it ain't going to be pretty. I'm like, I asked you to do one freaking thing. You couldn't do that. And like you said, it's not cheap anymore. You know, you get a combo meal and it's like, you know, it's $8 or $9. Around here, it sure is.
I was going to say that fast food, again, working in restaurants, I've told people before, like when you go and you get French fries at a fast food place, the easiest way to get hot fries is to request them without salt. Because that's a health thing, and they certainly can't take salt off of fries that have been sitting in a big vat that they've, tossed the big little scoot. You've seen those little like hand things where they just pour the salt over the fries when they come out of the fryer, right?
Yeah.
You can't get salt off of those fries. If you want fries with no salt, let's say at McDonald's, they have to make those fresh, But you're talking about, well, you say leave one thing off. That's another thing. That's another reason I don't eat fast food. I don't eat tomatoes, which is kind of silly maybe because I eat ketchup, but I'm one of those people that eats ketchup but doesn't eat tomatoes. I can't stand pickles. So tomatoes and pickles do not end up on a burger. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a fast food place, let's say like a Wendy's. I'll order, single, no pickles, no tomatoes. Get there, get it home. Pickles and tomatoes. And we're talking like at 3 p.m. There's no one in the restaurant. There's no one in line. It's just me.
Can I give you two guys a friendly piece of advice, okay? Don't ever go up to the drive-thru, okay? Always walk up to the counter. You know why? Okay. I'm gonna say it. Okay. They you at the drive-thru, okay? They you at the drive-thru. They know you're gonna be miles away before you find out you got okay? They know you're not gonna turn around and go back. So they don't care who gets Oh, Leo gets. Okay, sure. I don't give a I'm not eating this tuna, okay?
Shut up! That's all you got to do. I know you're not making a lot of money an hour, but you literally have nothing else to do in that place because I can see through the windows. There's no one sitting in there. It's empty. I am literally your only customer. How did you this up? And yet it happens. How?
So you're saying that somebody making minimum wage doesn't give a shit about their job? I'm shocked.
I can buy that. But God, is it just no pride in what you do? Is it I don't care? Or is it I'm too fucking stupid to know not to do this?
You've been in that kind of mood when you're in service industry. I can remember, and it's just like, I'm just going through the motions here. I really don't care.
When I worked in restaurant, I bartended. I never screwed up anybody's thing on purpose. Now, I had things that got screwed up by other people that weren't my fault. I was telling the story the other day to somebody a funny story of how I was working the service end of the bar one night on a weekend night, and I had a very panicked waitress come up to me because she had been ordering strawberry daiquiris for her table, and 2 daiquiris in, she came to tell me that she'd been hitting the wrong button, and they were actually supposed to be virgin strawberry daiquiris for the 9-year-old girl that was sitting with her parents.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And she asked me what to do. What do I do? And my reply was, is the little girl conscious? I can't see the table from here. She's fine. She's awake. She's laughing a lot. I'm like, well, I said, here's the first thing you do. Don't hit that fucking button again. The virgin daiquiri is on the left side. The regular daiquiri is on the right side. They're not even on the same part of the register. What are you doing? How do you mess this up? Should I tell them? I'm like, yes, go ahead and tell the parents that their 9-year-old daughter is hammered. Thanks to you and your inability to read the register keyboard. I'm sure that's going to get you maybe even a promotion. Or if you consider getting fired, a promotion, it's probably going to go that way. I said, here's the next thing. Just, hope they don't order another one. Because if you put virgin daiquiri on it this time and they look at the bill, they're going to notice a difference. And they're going to probably maybe question that. And maybe then they'll start seeing their 9-year-old daughter's eyes rolling in the back of her head. And then you'll have other questions to answer. All I know is when they come and ask me, all I'm going to say is, I made what was on the ticket. Maybe that's what goes on in the fast food places, right? I mean, I don't know who I'm blaming on that. Is it the person taking the order? Is it the person in the back making it? Somebody's screwing up. Again, that's a first world problem, though, I guess, because, how many countries, it's a struggle to put food on the table, right?
Yeah. Ask the people of Venezuela right now if they would, oh, geez, I'm not going to accept this hamburger because it has pickles and tomatoes on it.
Exactly. They're eating out of the garbage cans in Venezuela these days, aren't they? And yet here I am. If I went to Wendy's now and there was a tomato and a pickle on my burger, I'd probably be pretty pissed. It's all about perspective. And we sometimes forget how fortunate and how lucky we are here to live in a world where we can have fast food and where a waitress can get you hammered even at 9 years old. I mean, that's the country we live in, right? You said you had a list. You had some other good examples.
I do. I have a list. This is called a comprehensive list of funny first world problems. I will say that. And there's 100 of them here, and I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to pick out some of the ones I really, really enjoyed. This one I did not share with you earlier, but it just made me really laugh because I'm kind of like this. My roommate ate a hot dog without a bun. Now I have an uneven ratio of hot dogs to buns.
Now, that's a major issue. Now, to be fair to whoever wrote that, that's not your roommate's fault. They don't make the again, more first world problems. They don't even make the hot dogs and the buns in the right order anyway. When you buy them from the store, they don't come evenly packed, right?
What is it?
Do they?
Yeah, 8 and 8.
I didn't think they did. Is it 8 and 8?
For me, it's 8 and 8. You buy a pack of 8 hot dogs and you get 8 buns.
I thought it was like you'd get like 8 and 10. It used to be. Maybe they changed that. Because I seem to remember there were years where it's like there's always was never an equal ratio to dog to bun.
But I think it's the point of it,
Okay, well then you know what? If they make them evenly, then that roommate. That's inexcusable. That is that's terrible. That's awful. And that's just rude to your roommates. Don't do that. Don't just eat the dog without the bun or vice versa. You're ruining the whole hot dog economic scale for everyone else you're living with. Stop it. Just stop it right now. Am I overreacting? Maybe just a little bit. What else you got?
I have one here. The tap water doesn't taste very good here. Now I have to drive to the convenience store and buy some bottled water.
Oh, the people who have to live with dysentery and malaria would probably switch places with you in a heartbeat. Yeah, clean running. Well, I live in southern Louisiana. I want to note, as of this recording, guess what got shut off at 10 o'clock last night in my parish?
Your water?
Yeah. Guess what we had a boil advisory notice for this morning in our parish. I feel like I live in a third world country in this parish because we do this all the time. We have idiots that run at this parish. God.
It's the whole state. One of my favorite bumper stickers I've ever seen when I lived in New Orleans was the bumper sticker just said, New Orleans, third world and proud of it.
That, yeah, that's not that far off on some of the things that go on around here. But yeah, you're right. You mentioned water. We can go to the store. We can buy bottled water. There are plenty of countries out there. And again, the whipping boy I'm using is Bangladesh because that's always the go-to for poor countries. I think when you're trying to make some sort of humor at their expense, unfortunately. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. I don't know. But, I have to imagine that clean water is an issue. Certainly, if not there are plenty of countries either in Southeastern Asia or maybe in Africa where just having clean water is a big deal. And we take that for granted that, what comes out of the tap, unless you're living in Flint, Michigan, maybe, is, safe to drink. And, places where you can't drink that water or else your insides start turning into mush and you die. That's something we haven't had to deal with in a long time here, thankfully. And most advanced countries in the world don't have to deal with it, but there are plenty that, unfortunately, they do. So what else is on that list that we can feel guilty about?
This one is hilarious. I hate it when I go take a poop and I forget to bring my cell phone.
Whoa, wait. I forget to bring my cell phone while I'm on the toilet?
Yeah.
Who uses their phone on the toilet? Do you? I don't even bring it in the bathroom. I guess. Wait, are we not answering that question?
I can neither confirm nor deny that I may do that.
I never bring my phone.
It's a good time for me to get caught up on my email.
Oh, yeah. That's your email time. Next time I get an email from you, I'm going to actually now question where that's actually coming from.
You should.
I should. Okay. Well, yeah, that's definitely a third world problem or first world problem because in the third world, where's your bathroom? Look outside. What's plumbing? There are places still in the world where I'm thinking plumbing is not necessarily a given, right? Don't know exactly where, but there's got to be some places.
Here's one for you. The portion sizes in this restaurant are too big.
Who said that? Sally Struthers? What was the old Sam Kinison line where he would talk about, the late Sam Kinison, a great comedian, who would talk about those commercials he'd see about starving children in Africa. And his comment would always be like, the film crew could give that kid a sandwich, right? South Park made fun of Sally Struthers, didn't they? They did a whole episode where the kids went to Africa accidentally. Right. And they were in this starving village, and there's Sally Struthers looking like Chop of the Hutt, eating all the food that was being brought there. Kinnison's line was, "Don't feed that kid. It's not going to work unless he looks hungry." Right. Oh, the portions are too big.
Here's a good one. My hand is too fat to fit all the way to the bottom of the Pringles can.
Someone said that? That's a real thing? You got to be making some of these up.
Yes, these are tweets. Yes.
Tweets
are message board things.
And these were tweets that were made seriously.
I don't know if they were made seriously or if they were made in jest.
Because it became a meme at some point.
Yes.
The whole idea of first world problems was, as you said, it was a slang term originally, but it's actually now in the dictionary. It's actual real words now. It's not just slang. And apparently it became an actual term in the dictionary, and it became a meme. And then people, I think, do make fun of it a little bit, kind of like we're doing today. Yeah, so some of these may be serious and some of these may be in jest.
Yeah.
So
you want a couple more?
Oh, yeah. Well, why not? I think we're definitely experiencing what I wanted to experience when we talked about this, which is, hilarity and a little bit of shame and guilt at the same time, because, that's a perfect combination, right? What else we got?
I have to wake up at 4:00 in the morning because we're going on vacation.
That's always a big issue when you have to take time off of work and you have to go somewhere and get up early.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I had too much food for lunch, so now I'm tired.
Nothing like eating. Again, going back to nothing like having too much food to eat. To be honest, that's not even a first world problem or a third world problem. There are people in this country still There's people who go to bed hungry at night, right? That's not a problem that's been eliminated in this country. That's still an issue. So that's something that you don't even have to look to a third world nation to still see examples of, unfortunately. Yeah, that one's a little depressing. Let's find another one for me.
Here's one. And this one you probably can relate to. My Coke fizzed too much when I poured it into my glass, I had to wait for the fizz to go down before I could continue pouring.
Oh, I don't even know what to say to that. That's a big issue facing society, is an overabundance of fizz from soda pop.
Yes.
Major issues facing the nation and the people in it. I bitched and moaned some podcasts ago. I was talking about drivers and traffic, right? And idiot drivers and the like. And I went on kind of a bit of a rant about that. And I thought that was a serious, I still think that's a serious issue. But again, it's something much more prevalent here and much more of a problem here. And, what was I complaining about? I was complaining about basically on a vacation trip running into terrible drivers, right? Think about that. When you put that into context of, you're worried about that. And this child over here is worried about living to be 10 and not dying of some disease. Well, like I said, when you put it in the bigger perspective, but I don't know living in this country if we should feel guilty about the fact that we are in a good position, that we have certain amenities and that we have certain freedoms and certain good things that are available to us. I don't think we should feel guilty about it. It does help to keep things in perspective. Whenever you're raging about something, like I might at the fast food place about my pickle and my tomato, to try not to lose, your cool too much, or maybe lose your sense of perspective, knowing that there is something, there's a bigger picture out there. But you have more on this list. I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. So
I have a couple that kind of go together. They're food related. There's no food in my refrigerator. There's just a bunch of ingredients to make food.
That sounds like something Stephen Wright would say. You remember him, right?
I do remember him.
That's a Stephen Wright comment.
Here's another one. There's not enough dressing on my salad, so now my salad tastes like salad.
Like you said, are you sure this isn't just Stephen Wright material? That also sounds like something he would say. Salad's supposed to taste like salad. That's the whole point. When you eat a salad, isn't it to keep your calories down? And supposedly it's not just a health food, but it can be a diet food, correct? Where's all the calories come from with a salad? The dressing, right?
And that's the thing. It's like you go to a restaurant and you get a salad and you extra dressing. You might as well have just gotten a burger. It's the same number of calories.
Yeah, that's akin to the person who's like, yeah, I'll take the double cheeseburger, add bacon, extra cheese, and a Diet Coke.
No, supersize it.
Yeah.
Give me a Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. Yeah, exactly. It's the same mentality. So,
cutting your calories where you can. The fridge is all the way downstairs. I'm hungry, but I'm too lazy to go down there.
Well, there's an easy answer to that. Put a fridge upstairs and have multiple fridges, right? Simple problem solved. There you go.
That's another first world issue right there. Having multiple refrigerators on multiple.
I'm going to be, I don't know, maybe embarrassed to admit this. I actually have multiple refrigerators now.
Oh, yeah, you do.
You know this.
Oh, I know you do.
You know this. I have a main fridge in the kitchen. I have a wet bar in my house because I used to bartend, as I mentioned a long time ago.
That refrigerator is literally 10 feet from your other refrigerator.
But then I don't have to, if I'm making drinks, have to go to the big fridge to get the needed ingredients to make your Crown and 7 if I have it right there in the mini drink fridge, right? It's in a little breakfast area. I can go and get the drink out of there. It solely serves right now as a drink fridge anyway.
Or you could walk 10 feet to go to your regular fridge.
I will say it also serves as extra storage, so I can store a multitude of drinks. And you'll be visiting me about a month now, right? Literally, like a little less than a month.
Less. I think it's 3 weeks from today.
And you will find that drink refrigerator stocked with multiple options for your drinking pleasure, including your favorite, the Mountain Dew with the real sugar, will be stocked in the drink fridge. And, the big fridge, there's just not enough room to have the full complement of drinks that I like to offer my personal guests. I also have a small drink fridge that's upstairs in my recording area in my home theater. So, yeah, there's that too. So, I'm part of the problem, aren't I, in this? I feel like that. Do I feel guilty about this? I feel like I should feel guilty about this now. Give me something I can't relate to. I feel like I can relate to all of these, even if I think they're stupid or they're funny, but I feel like there is some relation to a lot of these.
Well, here's another food one. I'm so hungry, but I don't want to cook. Or I'm hungry, but I already brushed my teeth.
Yeah, again, talk to somebody out in some African nation who's starving to death about those two problems and see what kind of reaction you get. A blank stare and a plea for, please, God, give me something to eat is what you're going to get, more likely than not.
Here's another toothbrush one. I hate it when my electric toothbrush stops working 30 seconds into the job and I have to use it like a manual one.
Well, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort to manually brush your teeth, don't you think? I mean, you might have other things to do that day, like lounge around the couch in front of the television or surf the internet or go on vacation. I mean, you got to save energy for these things. I can sympathize with these people needing to have an automatic toothbrusher working for them and stopping. I'm more frustrated when my electric razor dies suddenly without warning. The electric razor I bought because my old one went out, the new one I got a couple months ago has a light that blinks and it's supposed to warn you the battery's going out, except it starts blinking like 10 seconds before it goes out. Where's my heads up? Where's my warning? I can't finish shaving in 10 seconds. What's the point of the light? It's you know what the point of the light is? It's a big middle finger. It's basically saying whatever you look like, that's what it's going to be if you don't have a razor and some shaving cream lying around. That's much more serious than the toothbrush, right? I have a manual razor blades and shaving cream, so I can manually shave myself and finish the job. But that's more of an irritation. That is more of a problem, right? I'm just completely proving the point that people blow up and lose their shit over the dumbest things, aren't I? At this point, I'm proving my own point, aren't I?
Pretty much.
I think I am. Well, let's keep making me look like an idiot. An irrational, unhinged idiot. Let's go ahead, because I love doing that. That's always fun.
It's not that hard to do.
Well, it depends. It can be. Other times it can be really easy to do it, and other times not. But what else is on this list that I can maybe relate to?
I don't know that you can relate to this, but it's another funny one. I don't have enough hangers for all my clothes.
That's a problem.
Or there's too much iced in my iced coffee from Starbucks.
I will not. I refuse to drink coffee out at any coffee place. I'm not paying. What is a coffee at Starbucks? Like just a basic coffee? Do they even make basic coffee at Starbucks?
Basic coffee at Starbucks is no different than the cost of basic coffee anywhere, to be honest with you. If you it doesn't matter if you're buying it there or if you're buying it like Dunkin' Donuts or, Down by You Community Coffee. They're all right around, like a large iced coffee is like $3.
And working in a restaurant, we know coffee costs nothing, right? We both have restaurant experience in our backgrounds, long time ago, but we both have it. And we know the coffee, there's a reason they gave free refills on coffee, right? Because whatever they charge for coffee was non-existent as far as that and tea were essentially cost them nothing.
Even
right?
soda.
Even soft drinks.
Yeah. When they're fountain drinks, it costs them nothing.
The bag that they have all the syrup in that powers out God knows how many drinks, it would literally cost what it would take the restaurant maybe charging like 2 or 3 people. And now they've paid for the bag, right? And everything else is pure profit at that point. There was a reason, right? When we worked in restaurant, sodas were free to the employees. Now, who gives anything free to the employees unless it costs them as an employer absolutely zilch, essentially, in the big picture, right? They weren't giving the steaks away free, right? They weren't giving away the high-end meals for free. You could drink the tea and the Coke and the coffee and have all you wanted, and they didn't care. But, anything beyond that, going back to Starbucks, I just don't see the allure of paying big money for that. That's another complaint of people who, it's not that it's not a valid complaint, right? It's perspective, I guess.
Here's a couple more for you. I can't hear my television over my crunchy snacks.
There's a simple solution for that. Turn up the volume, right?
Exactly.
You have a remote for that. Well, unless the batteries in the remote have gone dead.
Right.
Then that's apocalypse. Or you can't find the remote. Heaven forbid that happens.
Yeah.
That's the end of the world. When you can't find the remote. Well, nowadays, to be fair, in the old days when remotes were just coming into play with televisions, you could get up and actually change the channel. I don't know about you. I have DirecTV. I have a satellite box. I have absolutely no idea how I would change the channel with that satellite box if I had to do it manually. If my remote goes out, I'm pretty much screwed. I'm watching whatever is on television at the time. Heaven forbid it's on one of the channels that you hear me. And this isn't necessarily a first world problem, but you've heard like my complaints about the Hallmark channel and Lifetime, right? Is that the other one? Lifetime's the women's channel, right?
Yes.
You've heard me tell the story of my wife watching Hallmark around Christmas time, right? And they show like a marathon of sappy Christmas movies. And I love Christmas and I love Christmas movies. I mean, I love classic Christmas movies. We talked about one in a podcast, which is probably going to air after this one. So that'll be your little time distortion loop thing going on for anybody listening. But we end up mentioning Christmas Vacation, right? That's a classic Christmas movie, right? It's a Wonderful Life. That's an old school classic Christmas movie. The Christmas Story, which TBS runs in the marathon, right? Scrooge was another movie we mentioned. These are classic movies, right? The Hallmark Channel runs literally all their movies, and they have all the same plot, every single one of them. Have you ever watched one of those? Has your wife ever made you watch any of those Christmas movies? I some reason I don't sense that she
better.
Yeah, I don't sense that she's a fan of those type of movies. And I'm not faulting anyone who's listening to this who is, but I've told my wife, it's like, what's going on here? Every movie, how do you tell the difference? They all have the same plot. It's some female character. It tends to be, at least on the Hallmark Channel, some female character who is too wrapped up in her job and doesn't know about family and doesn't have the true meaning of Christmas in her heart. And then she meets some guy and falls in love, and suddenly things change and she discovers the true meaning of Christmas. And by the end of the movie, she's a changed person. And every single plot, all you have to do is change the actors and the actresses and the setting, but the plot is exactly the same. I told her I don't even know why they individually name these movies. They should all be named the same thing. Bitch learns a lesson. That literally should be the Hallmark calling card for all those Hallmark Christmas movies. And then the joke is the Lifetime movies are all pretty much the same thing too. It's some poor female who's victimized by some terrible guy who eventually she gets strong and she breaks free and the guy gets his comeuppance. And those should all be named Dude Had It Coming to Him. I mean, that's the plot for all these movies, right? Isn't it? I don't want my remote to go missing and be stuck on one of those fucking channels and have to watch the same damn movie over and over and over again on either one, where it's basically the same thing. That's like a time loop from hell. Am I over exaggerating? I feel like I'm not over exaggerating. Maybe a little bit. You're kind of quiet on that end.
Yeah, I mean, my wife doesn't watch that, but even still, the way I dominate a TV most of the time, if that's what she would want to watch, I really have no leg to stand on. Let's put it that way.
So you'd be forced to put that on? You know what you need? You need just multiple TVs. That's a first world issue, right? I don't have enough TVs to watch all the channels I want to watch. She wants to watch this and I want to watch this. And unfortunately, we only have one working TV right now. That would be a first world problem, right?
Well, going along with TVs, another first world problem is it's raining out, knocking out my DirecTV feed.
I have DirecTV. That does happen occasionally. It always goes out at the most inopportune moment. It's right where it gets to the part of the movie that it's building up to the climax, or if it's a sporting event, right when it's coming down to the wire. And here's the other thing with the satellite thing. And you explained it to me, I think, one time, saying it's not necessarily when the weather's on you, right? Because it depends on the positioning of the satellite. But I would always get frustrated in the very beginning when it would go out and I'd go outside. I'm like, it's not even fucking raining. There's not even a cloud. Where is this coming from? There's some clouds. Really? Clouds are stopping it? And then like 10 minutes later, there'd be like some terrible thunderstorm going on. And then my TV comes back. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. How can I see the TV in the terrible thunderstorm, but it goes out when it's not? But apparently I don't know the physics of satellite positioning, is what you basically told me. Satellite dish positioning and the way the angle of the feed goes and what would be blocking it and what wouldn't be is essentially what I was unaware of at the time. Because I didn't study DirecTV satellite physics at any point in high school or college in my lifetime.
You didn't study satellite TV meteorology?
I did not. That's probably a class they offer somewheres now or something similar to it.
Well, to let you know, I got so fed up with my DirecTV, which I had for a number of years. I had it down in New Orleans. I kept it when I moved to Brooklyn. I kept it when I moved to New Jersey. I've had it.
You convinced me to get it.
Right.
That's how
exactly.
I got it. Yeah.
I finally just bagged it. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I just got fed up with it going out every time it rained. I got Verizon Fios and ended up saving a ton of money.
Here in America, we have these choices. We're in a very advanced technological civilization and a very advanced technological nation. I'm wondering what the options are for television in smaller countries. I mean, obviously, and we're not talking about countries where, it's state-run television, but I'm just wondering for instance, like if you lived in Bangladesh, I wonder what your television options are in Bangladesh. Do they offer DirecTV in Bangladesh?
When I've gone down to the islands down in the Caribbean, there's a lot of dishes, and I think they're dish TV dishes on these houses that are, I'm not talking about like the nice houses. I'm just talking about like the normal place where the islanders live. So there is, in the Caribbean anyway. I've never been to Bangladesh, nor do I really have any desire to go to Bangladesh. So I have no idea, nor will I ever be able to tell you with any level of certainty.
We're really picking on the Bangladesh part of our audience, which I know is a large amount of the viewing or listening audience that we have on this podcast. Going to DirecTV's site, they actually have Latin American sites. So I can tell you DirecTV is definitely available in Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Puerto Rico, looks like Brazil. They have a DirecTV Latin America link, DirecTV Caribbean link. There's places there that you can get it. I don't see other sites necessarily. Maybe I could look that up. I'm not really sure. I just don't feel like maybe it's a satellite dish. It really shouldn't matter where you are, right? They can mail you the dish and the box. Shouldn't that be enough to give that to you?
All right. Apparently, they do have good TV in Bangladesh.
They do?
I just looked it up.
DirecTV?
Well, they have something called Bengal Digital and more than 265 channels.
Wow.
Including HBO and Fox, and they have MTV.
They have MTV. Wow. So they can watch like reality shows in Bangladesh and HBO. They can watch Game of Thrones if it ever came on again, right?
Let me see what the price is. Let me see if it's like, oh, yeah, you have to be like ridiculously rich.
Well, what is ridiculously rich in Bangladesh?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's like,
I feel like if you and I moved to Bangladesh, we'd be like Thurston Howell on Gilligan's Island rich, right? We would be the richest people in Bangladesh potentially. We'd be in the 1% perhaps. Again, another relative perspective type of thing. Or as we put in a previous podcast, would we be rich or would we be wealthy at that point?
So this is interesting. So I'm looking at the package, and it's the platinum package is 600 takas per year, which sounds like a lot. Taka.
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 Okay.
And I just looked up the conversion. Okay.
Okay.
So it's 600 takas, right?
Taka. I've never heard of that. That is their currency in Bangladesh.
That's their currency.
Okay.
That's $7 a month.
So that's what they're paying for it?
Yeah.
$7 a month. I'm getting fucking ripped off over here. Really? $7 a month for 200 and how many channels?
For platinum package.
How many channels? I'm outraged.
265 channels, 43 of them in high def, 224 in standard definition. Of course, here's the problem. There's nothing you're going to want to,
I get all these channels with DirecTV and half of them I don't want to watch. I can't even get fucking PBS for $7 a month. But I can get $7 a month now again, it's a trade-off. You're living in Bangladesh. at this point. And you have other issues probably than what you're watching on TV, I'm guessing, at that point, right?
You only get one ESPN.
Oh, well, then I don't want that. If I can't get the Ocho and all the other channels, then what good is it, right? One ESPN. What kind of world do we live in where I could live in a place where I can only get one ESPN? That's a problem.
I think you're going to have a hard time finding any baseball news. You might find a lot of cricket news.
Is that like real crickets or is that like sports cricket?
The
sports cricket, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it'd be like cricket news, like actual wildlife. Like we're being overrun with a cricket swarm because that's what happens in countries that aren't ours, right? So cricket as in the sport. Okay.
600 takas per month, which is $7 American. As one of our friends would call that.
Yeah.
$7 American.
$7 American.
That's crazy. And that includes the set-top box. You don't even get charged extra for the set-top box.
I get charged because I have extra boxes at my house. I think the charge per box is like $4, $5, $6 for every additional box past a certain number. So yeah, my extra boxes may be costing me as much as the entire platinum packages over there. We have our podcast is named after a Seinfeld term, right? Excruciating minutia. I really feel like we've sort of morphed into Seinfeld levels of complaining about trivial things in this episode. I really feel like I've channeled a little bit of George or Jerry or Elaine or Kramer in this episode at various points. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I think you've proven to the world that you are a child of the first world.
I am. I'm not ashamed to admit it, unfortunately.
It could be worse. You could be a millennial as well.
Oh, yeah, that would be worse. That would be worse. Then I would literally be complaining 24 hours a day about everything. But I think the lesson here, and again, we kind of said it earlier, the one thing to remember here, and it's something I will try to remember the next time I'm in line at the drive-thru at my local Wendy's or whatever establishment it may be, is that there are things that will irritate us and there are things that will aggravate us that are certainly not things that are necessarily acceptable or right or what you want. But in the bigger scheme of things, there's always somebody out there who has it worse than you. It's always good to remember that. And what do they say? Don't sweat the small stuff. Is that the saying? That's the path to living longer and happier, right? When you don't sweat the small stuff. When you don't sweat the first world problems, right?
Yeah, but that's no fun.
That's where would we be? We wouldn't be Americans if we didn't sweat them, right?
That's correct.
That's kind of also what makes us us.
That's what makes us asshole Americans. That's correct.
And proud of it, as Dennis Leary would have once said.
I'm an asshole, and I'm proud of it.
On that note, I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode. We will be back a little bit later on in the week with part 2 of our look at the year 1989 as we continue on with that series. We'll be looking at movies and television, and we kind of referenced a little bit of it in this episode, and we'll be talking about it in that one. Until then, I'm Randy, and Steven's been with me, and thank you for listening to us once again, and have a good one, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Excruciating Minutiae Podcast. Check us out at excruciatingpodcast.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on any of your favorite podcast platforms and follow us on Twitter at excruciatingpod. See you at the next episode.